It's been a minute since I've done an art video on this channel, so today I want to go back to that, and I just wanted to let you guys know what we're going to be working on today. I will be creating a special gift for a friend who has recently lost her cat, and the cat was an older cat. He was a very special cat to her, and I just wanted to create something that is gonna commemorate him and a special pet that he was. And I know deeply what it feels like to lose a cat like that. I just lost my 22-year-old cat Masania in December, and you know, pet grief is something that not everybody can understand and share, and I feel like we have this in common with my friend, so I really wanted to make something for her, to remember the special boy that her cat was. And so I showed you guys before, let me switch to the other view. I showed you guys before some of the glass paints that I had, but I've added more to my collection. I went to Michael's the other week to get the ones I will need for this painting. So this is what we're gonna be doing. This is my kind of like study materials, and this is the actual thing that I will be creating, and I will be creating it on the sun catcher. So I've seen this idea, and you know, you can get something like that done professionally. You can order pet memory sun catchers off Amazon, but I thought it would be more special if I actually painted it myself. And so I got this guy here. It fits almost perfectly. It fits like this. So I'm very excited about that. I think it's such a beautiful picture, and I just love how peaceful it looks, and I thought that would be a great way to remember her sweet cat. I don't really have much experience painting glass, so let's just try it and see how it goes. Now, since I'm showing you the entire process, I'm also showing you the mistakes. And the first mistake I made was trying to paint the window, but then I realized the glass catcher is made out of glass. So that is a perfect opportunity to make a window out of it if I just do the silhouette of the window. And so that's what you're seeing right now. Luckily, it's really easy to fix mistakes on glass because you can wipe it off. You can wipe it off when it's wet, obviously, but also when it's dry, technically you could do it too. It's just gonna be more work, but it's really easy to fix anything. The only problem is that when you are painting in layers, you can wipe off the bottom layer with the fresh layer if you're not being really careful. So that part is tricky, and overall, glass is a tricky surface. Today is day 2 of working on the sun catcher, so let's get to it. It turned out to be moving much slower than I originally thought. That's an interesting medium, and I'm not quite sure how to work with it, but you know, we'll get through it. Really not much to comment on here. I'm just filling in the surface, like the wall behind the cat right now, and just trying to be careful to make sure the cat's silhouette is untouched. But that part was kind of straightforward. Here is the part where you can see as I'm adding more paint, I'm thinking, oh, the previous layer is dry, so I'm just gonna add some more. But I actually had to reapply it multiple times because the bottom layer would just get scratched off by the fresh layer. So this part was a little tricky, but nothing that cannot be fixed. Now I'm starting with the subject of our painting, and I'm always so shocked at how stage by stage those initial, not ugly, but like not pretty splotches, just splotches of color eventually turn into something that resembles a cat. I guess it's the same with any kind of painting where you're trying to achieve realistic image. But for me, it's just always such a surprise that it can get from here to the final result. And at this stage, all I'm doing is just trying to find the colors that match and then add little details here and there, or mix in more colors to eventually get to the point where this actually looks like an actual cat. Somehow it's always at the point where I'm adding a little bit of white that the image really comes to life. And after that, it's just the teeny tiny details of the face that make it look like what I'm trying to paint. Add in just a little dot of a nose, and right away this resembles him. And then I actually put the picture right next to the painting, because this way I could compare the face better. And I'm not very good with proportions. If I tried to draw a cat right now without looking at anything, I wouldn't be able to create a nice image of a cat. But when I have something to copy, it's so much easier, and I can kind of see the angle and where exactly I need to put these little lines to make it resemble the subject of my painting. So let me move away a little bit from what I'm doing, because you can kind of watch it, but I do want to talk about pet grief. And if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Psychology in Seattle YouTube channel and podcast. I listen to Dr. Kirk Honda regularly, and one of his recent episodes, which was posted on July 4th, was called Pet Grief Book, and he interviewed Beth Bigler. She wrote a book on pet grief, which is titled Honoring Our Animals. And she talks about how pet grief is kind of disenfranchised in a way that people don't quite understand that it can be as deep and as strong as the grief we experience when we lose humans. And even for humans, Western societies in general try to kind of shy away from the topics of death, of loss, try to move on. And so there's a lot of expectations of how you're supposed to grieve. And so, sometimes people think you grieve too fast. Sometimes they think you grieve too slow. You're supposed to be moving on. You're supposed to be, getting better. And there's just very little understanding of how it actually works. And so when it comes to animals, it's even more so, right? Because a lot of people do not bond with animals in a way that's, deep and substantial and human-like. And so this conversation is very helpful if you are the kind of a person who bonds with animals deeply. And she talks about different ways how you can process that, like her experience, working with clients through grief. And some things she says, I've never thought of them, but she basically says that when we have somebody in our life that we love, we expect, our brain is kind of conditioned to expect them around. So when they all of a sudden disappear, our brain is constantly jarred by the fact that they're no longer here. And so simple things like, still talking to them, doing something like this, painting them, or writing about them, journaling about them, or even just talking to them, like looking at a picture and saying, oh, hi, Masanya, I miss you. It's good to see you. I love, your beautiful eyes. Anything that kind of allows our brain to feel like they're still here, they're still with us, and adjust to the fact that, we can no longer see them or touch them, but we can still, think about them and talk to them. That helps. And so she gives advice about things like that. So if you are experiencing pet grief, or if you just want to learn more about that topic, I highly, highly, highly recommend this episode. It's called Pet Grief Book. And it was posted, I believe, both on YouTube and on podcast on July 4th, 2025. All right, I'm done with my gift and I am pretty happy with it. I have to say, it was not an easy project. Several times I was like, I'm not sure if that's actually gonna work. But it did in the end, and I feel like it's a pretty good representation of this cat. I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but based on the pictures, I think that's a good enough, a close enough portrait of him. And I just love this picture. I love how peaceful it is with the plants and everything. I just think it's going to be a lovely memory to look at and to remember him like this. So I am happy about it. I'm gonna leave it to dry for 24 hours because I applied some Mod Podge to it, but otherwise it's ready. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!